I'll start by saying I'm John Cohn.
I'm Diane Mariano.
I'm Chuck Gilroy.
I'm John Rankin.
Lisa, can you identify your voice?
My voice?
Say your name.
Who would you like me to be?
Lisa Miller.
Lisa Miller.
Just say I'm Lisa Miller.
There's nobody better
There you
than
go.
you.
I'm Lisa Miller.
There we go.
And the reason is because John's trying this
Oh, got it.
by voice, and that way it might be able to work
Are
better.
you okay with that?
Oh, sure. I mean, yeah, most everything's recorded these days anyhow, so whether we do it or not.
Okay.
John, you're in the chair. Why don't you?
All right, welcome to the Richmond Parking Advisory Committee meeting, Monday, May 8th, 2023. Do we have any public comment? And I think we just have Lisa from the public at present.
Okay.
And then I had requested that we add this agenda item, additions or deletions to the agenda. I don't have any.
No, good point, but we're good, I think.
I don't, when Jim Feinson arrives, we may just have to change that order of the agenda.
Okay,
I tried to put all the RLT stuff together. So
Thanks. John, do you have any?
I don't have any additional.
then moving on, discussion regarding PAC presenting to the Richmond Select Board before committee member terms expire.
Kind of wanted to chat with you about that, Lisa. I know you kind of discussed putting us on the agenda for the select board last time around.
Right.
What you were looking for from us.
Well, what I sensed over the last, well, a lot of meetings actually, but last several anyway, is that you guys had a fair number of solutions, good solutions to things, but didn't always have the permission or the authority or maybe the money or whatever to carry them out. And I think that's a shame because, most of the work is in getting to that point. Jawboning people and standing out there and, observing and doing all the hands-on things. So I hate to see any group get to a point where they've got a solution and it just sits there, for lack of funds or for lack of resources or something like that. So I wanted to give you guys, actually, I think all the committees that are doing good work out there need some face time with the board, because the board is the ones that, we've got the money authorization and we've got, we try to tell Josh what to do, and it kind of goes both ways. But, if you need resources, we can do that. You guys have worked really well with Pete, and that's fantastic because he's the main player that, is the most help to you guys. But, things like the land trust and UMIAC and parking, what can the town do on our rights of way that we haven't done? It seems to me maybe there's some more grading and or graveling or something that we could do to help people park a little bit far, even a foot or two farther off the road might help if we're going to park along the road. Lots of things. But I thought, you guys deserve a one-on-one with the board to say what you want, rather than me trying to paraphrase it or guess. And that's what I was hoping would happen. I asked Josh to set that up, and he did, but Kevin wasn't able to make it. But I guess it's up to your board and yourselves and your chair who you would want to represent you. If you all want to represent yourself or anything is fine. So I'm looking to. I want to see if you do still want to do that. I'll try to make a spot there.
Well, how do you all feel? I'll go first.
yeah, go ahead.
Okay.
That's okay.
I think it would be good for maybe all committees, but certainly ours to do, about ready to get going. like a May meeting. And then like a July, oh my God, this is what's happening. And then there'll be an end of season meeting. I don't know, September, October. I think those are all great things, just sort of like to pulse it, to see what's happening, where everything is. And I think that's due from just a general thing. Yeah, John?
Yeah, I think just to add on what you're saying is, I think we should always communicate with them with a purpose. And I think to prepare them, just like you said, is here's what's changed. There's going to be a lot of public comment, et cetera, as we try to work this out, need you behind us. And then, so I think we should always, when we go to them, we should always have a purpose, what we're trying to intend. If it's okay, I also thought the idea that Lisa, you and Diana and I discussed just informally, that the idea of a select board having occasionally like a stand-up, like an agile stand-up where each committee, a couple of gets 90 seconds to report, would bring more awareness of what each of us are doing. Because right now there's this sort of central clearinghouse, but it doesn't necessarily come down. That might be an interesting thing to experiment with.
And, along those lines too, I'm sure we're gonna struggle for volunteers. Most towns do. It's the people that are willing to volunteer are pretty much all on board somewhere. They're on something. So it's there's an opportunity there to expose people who wouldn't maybe necessarily see what you guys are doing with the rec committee or planning commission or anything else, to see what these boards do a little bit, or hear straight from their mouths what they think of it, what they think they need, where they think they're headed. And maybe we'll wind up with a few more volunteers or some people that serve on a committee or a board that they wouldn't have thought of otherwise. You never know. It's kind of cross-fertilization.
What do you guys think?
Well, then we also have the potential that we won't have a quorum first, and whether we should discuss that with the board. I don't have anything particular that I have organized to discuss with them immediately, but perhaps other.
What do you think?
I like the idea. I think I kind of go back to what John and Diane were saying, and also, not knowing where the future is, but I've been on other before, and I think I'm always thinking that somebody at the select board or whatever is reading our minutes and knowing what we're up to and all that kind of stuff. And I think that's, there's not enough time in the day for that. And I totally agree with the idea that every once in a while you would come in and let's hear from the trails committee, let's hear from the parking committee, and oh, look at that, we're working on the same thing, or we're working toward a same goal and we didn't know it.
Yeah.
Rather than us just come in once a year and have a blizzard with the snow with the select board of information. This is what we want to do, and have them not be prepped for it. So I
right.
Yeah. Whether it's a monthly or quarterly or whatever, that if here's what we're doing, here's what we're working on.
Yeah, thank you, Chuck. That's exactly what would work the best, I think, because the board has a lot of things. We even have a meeting tomorrow, a special meeting. So we've got a lot of things to wade through, and we've got actual times like you do, but we have times on our agenda, and we allow 2 minutes for this, 3 minutes for that, 5 minutes for this. And after about an hour, we're off the rails already because public comment came up. There was a debate about the correctness of a statement, or it never fails. There's always more than fits in the shoe. So it's to have you guys come like once and do a brain dump could be a little overwhelming for the receiver, but to do it periodically, and you cover your favorite issue each time, or I think we could give you. I think we should give you at least 10 minutes in your group. Maybe do 2 committees at a time. But yeah, I understand you don't want to spend a lot of prep either, because it's not in your natural environment. What you guys are doing here, what you're doing out in the field is really what you're best suited for. And we don't want to bog you down, dragging you into a meeting just for the sake of meeting.
I think for like you're doing, like you mentioned, like the stand up with a monthly or whatever happens to be what's going on. We could just be on in the beginning part, rather than having to wait for that, like, oh, I think we're on at 8:20. Okay, let's go. Like, it might be nice and like, oh, okay, let's just check in with everybody in the, after early on would be awesome, I think.
Yeah,
There is two things that, and we might be remiss in not going sooner to the select board, but Chuck, you brought up a couple meetings ago about a press release of changes, and I really like that idea. I don't know if that would just go to Josh and he would look it over, or if it's something that has to go in front of the board. But as we come up to Memorial Day, and I still don't know when all the signs are getting put up. Do you know?
I believe the signs have been ordered. It's on our agenda that we talk about.
Yeah,
I
but-
believe the specialty signs have been ordered.
Okay.
I believe.
Mhm.
These would be particularly for East Cochran Road and the Dugway Road, the new parking there. As part of getting the word out, our thought was that the town, I would think select board or town manager, maybe have a press release and talk about these changes, because certainly we find that BT Digger in 7 days and Channel 3 tend to report a fair amount about what's going on out here, as well as tell people suppose they should come here. But I think that would have to be part of our plan to get the word out there. Is press releases. We're doing some fairly good signage. But the question is who would draft the press release, and who would be the person to be interviewed had the press wanted to come in and talk to somebody.
Yeah, and Lisa, do you happen to know if does that have to be presented to the select board, or is that something we just talked to Josh about? If we said we should do
Yeah, I guess I don't know the answer to that. I know we're, in fact, tomorrow, we're going to be talking about messaging with Josh. Can't tell you, don't tell anybody because it's executive session, but that's what we're going to be talking about. So there's a lot of things going on in the town, and I, for one, don't feel like I know all what's going on, or even half of what's going on. It's okay, as long as somebody else does, but maybe nobody does. Maybe there's this big gap. So we start preparing notes, we discover, everybody's looking to the left, and where we should look is to the right. So Josh would be, I'd say wait until after tomorrow when the board is going to talk, and then I think you'll have an idea. And he's a good manager as far as using what comes out. He doesn't just receive stuff and let it sit. He's good about getting stuff and knowing where to go with it, or knowing who else should share it. So
all right, so how about the day after tomorrow, I'll write an email to Josh asking, the PAC feels like it would be great for the town of Richmond to write a press release, it's coming up to Memorial Day weekend about, the change in parking patterns that are going to be seen on a couple of roads, and see what he thinks about that.
Yeah, okay. I'll let him know, and to expect it. And
I will also, in that note, is the other, again, about, I'm still staying on the topic about the select board. In talking with Pete, and we can bring it up later again, but it may not be a bad idea to rope around the meadow, the Bombardier Meadow, one more summer, just to help, even though there's signs going up. It's a small area, and perhaps we could put up a thin rope to denote. So I will ask him if that requires a select board meeting, or if, since Pete's done it already before, it'll just be just to help. Since the signs are going to go up, it's going to be a little different. It might be helpful. We won't be able to do the same thing on Dugway just because it's, about 2 miles. That'd be a lot of string. So we won't do it there. But I will also ask him, so you all
Is that
know.
ropes on the land trust property on the right of way, or the parking area mainly, or were you thinking?
It's on the right of way that goes around.
The
Yeah.
old bend, well, they used to have the ropes.
Yeah, where
Okay.
they used to have the.
So there are ropes today near the former entrance to the parking area. So this would be further on down towards the Huntington River from there.
Yeah, it's like they were done like the first year.
It was long enough ago.
Okay.
Asking.
So essentially, to denote the ordinance change from whatever sign Pete's puts up that
Yeah.
says no parking begins here, all the way around the bend to the Huntington
I see.
River. And he still will be working that angle over the West White Hill, Jane Miller area, because he's gonna the lines, and he really wants to get people off that little corner. So those ropes have stayed there, and he might just tuck them up and fix them a little better.
Hmm.
But I will ask Josh also in an email. Can Pete just do the ropes, or does he have to go ask again?
So that is the question, who could,
Mhm. I think Josh gives Pete a lot of latitude because Pete's clearly capable and knows the ropes, so to speak.
Those are
Pete.
I couldn't help it, sorry.
it's
I
legal.
think if you work with Pete, nobody's gonna complain, unless Pete complains, in which case, do what he says. Yeah, everything's good.
Oh, okay, I'm bleeding over into the one of the next agenda items, but depending on how fast things move with the land trust, the ropes that are up next to the former entrance perhaps could be modified,
Yeah,
yeah.
but we'll
yeah.
get to that later.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So is there any other select board meeting up with them? So I just felt like the press release
Yeah.
and the
okay.
ropes, is there anything else that we need them to okay on?
One last question I have in the press release was being naive to the subject. How do we determine who gets the press release?
There's a system. I believe that the
Good.
press release goes out to all the papers
Okay, so
and all the
media
media, all the
outlets
media.
and all, so we don't have to look
there's
at
a-
it, make sure that
um,
7 days gets it.
Correct, correct. I believe back in the day, press releases, that's the way it happened.
Put out on the wire. What they used to say, right? They went on the wire, then they picked the story up off the wire.
Yeah, UPI or something, yeah.
God, I'm old. But, I'm comfortable with what we're working on with there and we want to move on to.
I do think that, a lot of the audience for this is not just the people in town. So I think it's really important that we get it out there and be prepared for backlash. Won't be,
Well, if there's a press release, we could even, we'll
Yeah.
have a copy of it. We can even put it
Yeah.
other places like the biking clubs and stuff like that.
I
Yeah.
think that it'll do something at least to deter people who are thinking of coming here and make it, if we can help them make the right choices so that they don't show up and then, the kids in the car and have no place to park, we don't want that to happen either. So
So in the event, Josh says, sounds like a great idea. Can you send us a draft? I'd be happy to be part of is there another person that would help me write a press release?
Sure, I don't mind working with that. We can bounce
Just in
around between us
case.
like we do.
Okay,
and I think we should all have our.
That's why I
eyes
say
on it.
bounce around
I-
between us and all that.
yeah.
So who would be again, that's a naive question. So when Channel 3 says, wants to come out here and have an interview to talk to somebody about this, do they talk to Josh? I mean, you think maybe the police chief, maybe the highway commissioner, maybe the,
I'm trying to think of the other ones that they've done, and they've just asked neighbors. There's the- Yeah,
Well, Josh has the biggest salary, so he probably should be the one. But
Yeah.
it depends on what the media's interest is.
would not be us. That's what, no, I know
Right,
that.
that's the main thing is we need to
I'm
make
just saying,
sure
who
we
do we
play a
want to
place.
prep
Yeah,
for this?
we stand behind our decision, but I think the select board and the town manager should be
Yeah.
where the buck stops, I hope.
okay.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, I would look to Josh for that answer. If he wants to delegate someone or back to the board or something, it's okay. At least we know. Mhm.
We'll appoint a spokesperson, basically.
Nice, okay. That's. Would you like me
John, do you
to,
have that?
to ask, Josh that also?
I think so. I think that should be part
Yeah,
of it.
the question, okay, I
They
got
may
it.
not, nobody, they may not want to come interview somebody, but
Yep.
I'm thinking they probably will.
All right, so this will be a Wednesday email.
I'll follow up with Pete and see if the signs have been ordered and what we're looking for delivery date on those.
Okay.
That's actually later on the agenda. We can talk
Yeah,
more about
okay,
signs.
sounds good.
moving on.
I
Moving on.
think so.
So we have Jim Feinson from the Richmond Land Trust. Do you want to sit closer to a microphone?
Yeah, come on up.
Yeah, Jim, can you say, this is Jim Feinson?
Yeah.
We're, actually, if
Tell
you're
Mike.
okay, I'm using a transcription app, if you're okay with that.
I'm good with that.
Okay, then just identify yourself, please.
Hi, I'm Jim Feinson. I'm the stewardship chair for the Richmond Land Trust. The stewardship committee is the one that's charged with the ongoing maintenance and monitoring of our existing parcels. All right, and I'm here to talk about all things Richmond Land Trust.
things.
Every agenda item you can think of that
Realty.
that
We
has
tried
the
to
word
bunch it
RLT,
together.
letters RLT in it, I can talk about
Okay.
We want to string that out too bad here.
real time, whatever.
All right, so ahead of schedule, review of conversations with RLT regarding additional parking for Gillette Pond. So there was an email this back and forth with Fritz
Mhm.
that you may have been copied on.
Hmm.
That Pete was standing there in West White and looked over at the dam and said, why couldn't you put a parking lot there? And so the answer seems fairly clear that the property line was just the acquisition from John and Sue Lowe was only sufficient for the dam and there's no room for any parking. It's
On the, as you face the dam from west.
Yeah, yes.
On the left side.
on the left side. So that's out. And so we could go back to Pete and say, what about that parking on the far side of the road? Is it to the north of Durand Road?
So just so we're clear, it's across from the dam.
Yeah.
Bob Lowe's end bit of his land right
Mm.
there. He said, yeah, you can, if you put some gravel down there, you could do a little extra shoulder parking there.
Hmm,
I'm okay with that.
okay.
Correct?
So
Is that-
Pete,
Yeah.
well, we met with Pete about that. Pete kind of went around and around with that, trying to find a better answer, and then, because the things he didn't like about that was he didn't like the fact that people had to cross the road.
Hmm,
He didn't like that, he struggled with the fact that our town plows are 12 feet wide, they're made to do a road in 2 passes,
hmm.
and now you're adding 4 feet on there that they'd have to make some kind of a pass for. But he did in the end say, I will voice my concerns to the select board, but if this is what it comes down to, then that's what we have to do.
Yeah.
He was in hopes that some of the material potentially being removed for the dam
Hmm.
could be used for the fill over there, which
Mm.
might benefit everybody. It may, have to haul it away, and it gives a base layer that he can top coat later.
Mhm.
So that was kind of here where he'd left that. We thought there was about 130 feet there. Which for us, we think that's 6 to 8 cars.
Okay.
Which combined with what you're putting in there.
Yeah.
That's nice.
And, and I can't speak for the landowners. I don't know that it's forever off the table that there could be parking elsewhere. But I think
Yeah.
right now, there's just the one designated lot.
Right.
To the right, as you're facing the dam.
Right.
And Bob Lowe was okay. He's the landowner, although we have the right of way between those kind of the apple trees over there on that side.
Hmm.
And he was okay with that.
Okay.
He asked me today, have we awarded the bid on that yet?
We have not.
We-
The Richmond Land Trust, we are currently out to bid
Okay.
in the bidding process. So.
How big a project is it?
The budgeted amount is roughly 625,000 plus a contingency that could bring it up to 750. Yeah, so we are hoping that by the end of this month, we'll know where we are with bids and timing.
That's gonna be a cool thing. I
That would be
think.
great.
Yeah. What, it sounds like an opportune time to bring Pete back on and maybe bring this in front of the select board and talk about this, just to be in timing with that extra fill, if we're gonna go on the other side, the plowing of it. You contract your plowing to do your, like, that, there's gonna be a parking there. Would
Yes.
that be contracted?
I presume so. We currently contract for plowing at Willis Hill
Mhm.
and at Beeken. And so I don't know that we've planned, but I would guess that would be also be something that we would plow, given that it's our primary winter place.
Possibility.
Yeah, my guessing is being a town road that Pete would want to plow that, so I think that's okay, but certainly your parking area. That's on the south side would be something we would expect you would
Right.
maintain.
So who's doing the, getting it on the agenda? Are we
Well-
gonna suggest that?
I mean, I can bring forward the opportunity, which I had not heard about, using the fill. And that's something, if all goes as planned and we're successful awarding the bid and have that scheduled, then that's a conversation we'd have.
Yeah, I think we're probably at a point where we ought to at least. Let the select board know we're thinking about this.
Just a point of order though, should we bring it up or should RLT bring it up?
No, it's not our.
Well, I don't think RLT is gonna bring it up, yeah.
Okay.
I think it would be us, and I'm kind of, part of me, John, is not knowing what the future of the PAC is.
Uh-huh.
That we ought to
Take
plant
that
as
forward.
many seeds as
Get
we
it-
can.
Okay, so that, when do we all think that would be a good agenda item for a select board?
How many more meetings are there before the end of the month? There's one.
There's one. Yeah.
Well, let's-
How,
let's-
do we feel like? June?
I'm on the select board agenda next week to talk about Bombardier parking, apparently,
Oh,
and to update them on our plans for parking in that area,
Great, so
at Josh's request.
the, okay,
are you presenting?
Yes.
that's great. Probably want to untangle those two, but that's, do you want to be there also to represent that from? Yeah, you don't need to be, it's town land.
Yeah. But
But we
I'm
would-
happy to be,
Okay,
Yeah.
we would just need, it's just an opportunity to put some of the fill that's gonna have to get taken out of there anyways.
Yeah.
Across the way.
So you'll bring up the Westwood. thing.
Guess we should circle back in with Pete again on that. Do you want to, who wants to lead that and talk with Pete and really
I could be the Pete guy.
Would be the
I guess
Pete guy,
I'm talking
and
about
then
two
do you want to
other
just see when Pete would like to bring that from the select board, checking his schedule? I mean, if he's gonna say, I'm gonna be there on this date anyways, why don't we just talk about that also? Because it's not a rush, sounds like. It's not like we have a couple months or a month at least to figure this out.
No, but if we can have Jim get ahead of it with the contractor and say, oh, by the way, if we can do a couple scoops over here, that.
also, we don't know at this point that it's realistic that the work, if we award the bid, that it will get done this season.
Okay.
Okay.
Contractors are very busy. There's a lot of money, as we all know, out there.
Yeah.
And a lot of work.
Yeah.
And so, we are prepared to go into the 2024 season.
So when you say not get done this season, you're saying maybe not even start this season.
May not even start this season.
Fair enough.
It'd be nice to get that at least in the people's thoughts though about.
Yeah.
And.
So Chuck is gonna talk to Pete. And you're on the schedule for the select board meeting and you can bring it up. Jim is gonna bring it up? No.
Now, we'll see when Pete wants to talk about it with the select board
Oh, okay,
and then get it on their calendar.
okay,
And then just go and sort of say, this is what we're talking
Okay.
about. Looked at all these options and this seems like not the best option, but an option. And want to just do it in conjunction with.
okay, Pete will talk to the select.
Is there
board.
any provision for any other parking along that road?
We walked, we looked,
Well, way down before the Huntington line, there's a pull off.
Right. Of course.
And there's two kind of bus turnaround kind of sections in there.
Yeah.
I reached out to the Girl Scout camp to see if maybe we could do something in the winter time for the parking lot there.
Yeah.
And they were receptive to if,
They
if
were.
you're having skate day or something,
Okay.
that we could rent the parking lot, which.
Yeah.
Maybe would be cool.
Yeah.
They insisted the girls be involved and they would do hot chocolate or whatever.
Okay.
I'm just thinking
Something.
keep that in mind as something we could use.
we pass it off to the rec committee, actually. It's a great idea.
So it would be a cash rental or would they offer it?
We didn't get to that point. I think I was to the point that we would plow it and make sure nobody went into the camps and they would probably be okay with that. So
just for events or in general?
just no, one time usage, 1 day usage. They have a caretaker up here somewhere. I think I know who it is. He works for Girl Scout cookies.
Wow.
It's a good barter system there.
Portly guy, portly person.
Kind of heavy set.
Yeah.
The state,
Breast on ligaments.
the state parking lot at Robbins Mountain is 3/4 of a mile away and isn't plowed. at the moment.
It is now.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, there's not much there for legal parking.
Yeah.
So even if you don't open this winter, we might want to rethink some thoughts for,
Well, I think-
Yeah.
Right, on the fact we might lose that free fill.
that free fill.
But you don't know what other projects Pete's got going on.
Exactly.
So you did discuss with them the question of could it be used more? I mean, it was discussed about special events. They explicitly were not open to letting it be there for.
Correct. I didn't specifically ask the question, but the way the conversation was going, it was guarded enough where I didn't think that was a place I would go. Because they were very worried about opening the parking lot and, oh, look at all those buildings, what are those? And right now those buildings are out of sight, out of mind, but they were worried about people.
Makes sense.
And I think that's a reasonable concern.
I think so.
You all good on that?
All right, we move on to
What's the next one?
discussion of Beeken Canoe access changes with RLT.
Yeah. I guess the question was, the parking lot there, the extra, were you guys working on that one? Yeah.
The current plan is to both reopen what has been a temporary lot right along Cochran Road, that large lot right near the Beeken Stone, I'll say. However, to keep the other lot open as well. And we want to consider closing the existing lot, year-round lot, but not until we have improvement to what is currently a temporary. So we're looking to delineate it again, poles, ropes, open access. It's open now. People can use it now. It hasn't really been mowed for the first time for the season. And then we have design for hardening it, gravel and so forth, which we do a portion. That is viewed as the timeline to get that done before we close off the other Beeken, since we have not been plowing that or keeping that open in the winter. How this will all work in terms of scheduling the work and money and where it's going to come from, we're not exactly sure at this point. Whether we're looking for grant funding or how we're going to pay for that, because we don't particularly have the budget right now to do that work.
So with the Beeken, I'll call it the Beeken parking area by the rock, as you point out.
Yeah.
Would that be year-round parking eventually? Is that the goal?
I think the goal
And
that
then,
would
and
be
then
around
the other
parking.
one would just go away?
Yeah, just because of the condition and the danger coming out of that lot and how wet it gets, and it's just not and it's, We have also, I don't know if this is an appropriate place to talk about it, have been in discussions with the town. Apparently there are some grant funds available for floodplain and river shore work. And so there is.
Wait,
So we're sort of in discussion whether we could, with the town, apply for a place where there's potential failure along the Beeken Trail to my north, south, east, west, like to the south, to the east of the Beeken lot, just to the east of the Beeken lot. There's a place where the river is cutting in. It's now within about 8 feet of where the bank gets steep. It's probably within 20 feet of Cochran Road. In the past, the message has been there's no money for that proactively. It's only when the road fails that you get to do it. But now that there may be some other funds available and we have a design for that, whether that could also include the canoe access itself, which is just kind of what it is. It's not really it's a little bit increasingly treacherous to enter your canoe from there. And we're open to doing that. It's again, it's not anything that's within the scope of the Richmond Land Trust funding. So So that doesn't relate to parking, but it relates to the recreational uses adjacent to parking.
Do you think that there's anything in those grants that we could use at Overrocker as well in terms of improvement, trail stuff, et cetera, to improve the river access there?
It'd be worth talking to Keith Orbone about that.
What's that last name again?
Is it OR? Oh, no, put me on the spot. He's I think he is the new Ravi.
Okay. Oh,
I think he's the new planning administrator.
got it.
I think it's
Thank you.
Orbone, Orbone. I should know and I don't. I've not met him.
So we do kind of feel that Overrocker is underutilized, so some of the new signs we're having Pete order are river access signs to go on the Overrocker
Hmm.
post.
Yep.
Because we feel that people drive by there not knowing that it's right there.
Right.
Because it is quite above, so maybe that'll help you out with the other parking area you have.
Yeah, particularly if Uniac's planning to do stairs again. And
Yep,
Mhm.
I heard that's a go, yeah.
I'd love to pop a picnic table down there.
Yeah.
So maybe there's funds available.
well, unrelated, but there's now a bench along the River Shore Trail that Gary Beckwith
We saw that.
secured.
Yeah,
This
we
morning.
ran by it this morning.
Yeah, we
Great.
go, "Oh, he got it
So
done.
that was the Conservation Reserve Fund that
Oh,
did matching funds for what he raised privately.
Thanks.
But if it's on town land, you would hope maybe the town can pony up.
A lot of eco projects here, Jim, a lot of eco
Yeah.
projects.
I,
Picnic tables, yeah, absolutely. Love to.
I said near Barlow Beach.
I think,
people.
we said this before and I keep forgetting to follow up Eagle. A project for, it'd be nice to have some kind of little kiosk information at Overrocker.
Hmm.
Maybe next to the picnic table. I was thinking it would be,
I think if Eagles
Yeah,
going to
so-
do kiosks, they could be doing kiosks for the next.
That's a threat.
6 to 10 years.
The five of us all have that ego project thing in common.
Yeah.
So I mean, maybe
Yeah.
that's.
Yeah.
Yeah.
maybe, whenever they're looking, we can always.
Yeah.
Actually, on that, is there something we should be actively? I mean, that's a free labor and it's beneficial to everybody. Should we be more proactive about that?
I think it wouldn't. I think it'd be beneficial for all parties if we came up with a reasonable list and gave it to Troop 623 and said. If you've got guys looking for Eagle projects, these are the kind of things that we can do and. We don't want to take away from Scout Run, Scout initiated,
They choose it,
but they're always looking for something. And especially if there's something where you can do
I think that
matching
would be-
funds with matching funds to a bottle drive or something like that. That's an impressive project.
I just think that the precedent for doing that, of getting the town to, work with scouts would be really good. I mean, again, you're not gonna force them to do it. But they're doing something that they need to do for their advancement. I think that's a great public service kind of thing that we could model.
And they're already, there's a bridge that was built on the river trail and a kiosk at the Andrews Forest, so there have been existing.
Oh,
Yes, great. I think that's great. So those were all Eagle projects?
Those two were, yes.
If you look around town, I mean, there's some really good ones. There's never a bad one, actually.
all right.
My son has probably the record for the only one that was lost in a hurricane. So,
There you go, I remember.
a little disheartening. But
So that was the town forest, and where?
There's a river tail bridge.
All right. Anything else on the Beacon new access?
We're no longer speaking of Beacon.
Well, I think I don't think that's things we have an effect on. It's just stuff we're curious about that affects what we might do down the road.
Yeah.
The other thing is,
the Beacon lot has been overused and been on the road, so this feels like it's a good solution. Not really aware of anyone who's really objecting to the use, it's.
so it would be nice if it, we're trying, Overrocker got a 911, not 911, went on Google Maps. And so when the Beacon one becomes permanent, that might be nice to put
Yeah.
that on there too, just to sort of have.
I could do, should I wait? I mean,
Yeah. you should
I
do.
put that on there, but okay,
I think-
so you tell me when.
Okay,
I'll put it on.
Yeah.
all right, I'll make some notes if you leave.
So we moving on to the review meeting with VTrans at Checkered House Bridge parking area? No.
Since that doesn't,
How about we do
involve-
Bombardier
Why
next?
don't you do Bombardier?
Oh, okay, you're right.
That's what I was just suggest. Are you okay with that, John?
So, yeah, so East Cochran Road parking changes, RLT decisions and Pete's thoughts. If I can just say quickly, my two communications, one with Jim was that the plan for the ADA and turnaround would be roughly in the same place.
Yes.
And that that people would not be backing out, but there was an open question about trailers. And then the conversation with Pete, which I don't think we're going to get to any consensus about what should be done there tonight. But that he said that it was, and I don't know if you talked with him about it. Oh, you did? Okay, then you may know more. It's technically feasible to widen the shoulder near the Winooski River Bridge adjacent to the Bombay Meadow. And it would take 2 to 3 days and take a lot of gravel.
So since we emailed, I can confirm the desired plan is we would use the existing entrance and the lot would be created and the turnaround to where it is, it's really almost snugged up as much as we can, getting close to the river. So it might even migrate a little bit towards the river. Has not been designed. I think our intent is we've worked with Tyler Billingsley from East Engineering on the design work that's been done. He's done some lot design there, so I need to get back to him to update it with our plans. And I think we'll do it with the intent of requesting that there's an adequate turnaround, not only for vehicles, but potentially a vehicle with a trailer. But we don't know, we don't have the knowledge to know what that means for how big an area we're talking about, because we don't want to see a big expansion of the area. The intent is to, again, sort of harden, improve the area that would be used for the spots in the turnaround. But until we get into the design phase, we don't know if it's really feasible that we can make that work. But it makes total sense that we don't want people in any regard backing out of there. So
love the ADA. I think all parking lots need to have, that's fantastic. Any possibility that as the design comes up that there could be potentially like 4 non-ADA possible parking places there or absolutely none?
I think the Richmond Land Trust enthusiasm for any non-ADA
Okay,
self-monitored parking is not high.
okay,
I mean, potentially, we've been closing it every winter, the use is a lot less off-season. Whether we could take any existing, the original easement specified, I believe, up to 5 spots.
Mhm.
So really, we're talking with a limited number in terms of the keeping of the terms of the original easement. Whether any of the ADA could be multi-use out of season, maybe that's an idea we could discuss. But I think in season.
So you're thinking like Memorial Day to Labor Day?
Yeah.
Is that the kind of thought or whatever?
Yeah.
ending date?
Right, yeah. And that the lot otherwise would be, well, it could remain open as, we haven't figured out enforcement, all the other pieces. But I suppose there's no reason, but right now we have not any plans to plow it or do anything with it out of season, because it doesn't seem like that's a place that would have as much demand. Unlike Gillett Pond, where it's, the whole purpose is to skate.
Do you mind asking, so during the deliberations, I understand what you said, that the RLT said they didn't have much appetite for that, but is there a lot of discussion on, so then what does happen and where they park? I mean, we've got this stretch John was just talking about where they can, but that won't accommodate very many people. What was the discussion there about? I'm just curious about the dynamics of the sense of responsibility that RLT feels, is the idea that, well, how did that go?
I think the just like this is the commentary phase of the presentation. My interpretation
Is that okay to ask?
What's that?
That's okay for me to ask?
Sure, I'm
Okay.
I'm happy to have you ask, and I'm happy to answer. I think the intent with what was Bombardier was to provide public access, but that didn't extend to therefore needing to create parking. And I think the general feeling is that we're really not in the parking business. I think we've demonstrated that we really can't manage it, and felt like we were really stretching all the other constraints of the easement. So not to say this in an unintended harsh way, it's not sort of our job to solve the parking problems of the town. And there was some discussion, which is, are we creating the problem by public access? But that didn't sway to that, to say that therefore, right now, the easement requires public access, and that's sort of, you know, it's got state money, it's sort of goes with the package. And felt like the solution we have is meets the intent of what was originally envisioned in conserving that parcel.
You have a timetable on the the parking potential. I mean,
Yeah.
do you have a timetable?
I think our hope would be with it, I heard you talking about signs. We got a lot of signs to make and things that, I think our hope is that we could set up, you know, the smaller lot, with clear ADA signing within, we don't have a timeline, but for this season. For this season. But yes,
Which started yesterday,
okay,
just based on the parking that is
Yeah.
there already there. So,
okay.
yeah, I'm just curious. So do you have an idea of what are you using it for that timeline?
Like Memorial
Or,
Day?
yeah,
Or what's the season?
Yeah, we didn't come out with a timeline.
Okay,
So the-
okay,
is the
that's
honest
okay,
answer. So,
that's okay
yeah.
too. It's,
I think our hope is to reopen Beeken within a couple of weeks. Whether we could do that all on the same workday weekend and make that happen, it's a possibility.
mhm.
But we realized that we were, you know, the sign plan and the, you know, the delineation. We're nervous about opening it before we've got the signs, and the signs are not only that this is an ADA only lot. Hopefully the signs would be, hey, if you want to use the river, here's other places that you can park. That's very good. Yeah, so that it tries to manage the demand, which we have not done a good job with.
So you had thrown out Memorial Day to Labor Day, but maybe just to clarify, you're not planning on putting a rope up on the Tuesday after Labor Day and closing off?
No,
No.
yeah, we didn't do that. We sort of have been
Never.
flexible with what we do
Yeah.
there. Yeah.
Because people
Yeah.
want ADA access on the Tuesday after Labor Day, and they'll want, if they're parking on the very steep section of the road adjacent to the meadow, that where you can't take a boat off easily, well, if they could go down into the turnaround, take their boat off and then park up
Yeah.
there, that
I
would
mean,
work out
if
better.
we feel like, we've solved the problems of the recent past, I don't know that there could be consideration to leaving the lot open year round. Again, we're not planning to plow it, but it doesn't mean that if someone at their own risk wants to go in there, that could happen. Now, in terms of how wet it is and, you know, what we do for improvement, that may be part of that. So I think that's all open. You know, we're sort of learning as we go
Yeah,
along.
okay, but yeah, May and September would be months that would potentially have significant usage.
Yeah.
So just curiosity, as part of the ADA, is the trail network being improved? I'm just picturing people who have special needs pulling in down there, and now what?
Yeah, the hope is that we could actually do an improved or gravel pathway.
Nice.
And then we actually also already have plans just to improve the put-in spot.
Okay, good.
And it wasn't done with an ADA focus. And I think, you know, so we'll have to understand that. But I think that would be the idea, which is that if you've got someone in a wheelchair, they can get to the edge of the river and they can get in a boat.
I love that.
Yeah.
That's great.
It's a win.
That is
great.
definitely one.
Yeah.
really good.
You know, and I think just to capture, it's been a robust discussion, and we feel like this is a good solution. But really came back, and we also involved Isaac Bissell, who is this the new stewardship director. Isaac, it's Bissell. He's the relatively new stewardship director for the Vermont Land Trust.
Hmm.
I'm sorry,
Vermont-
the last name.
Goes for VHCB, Bissell, Bissell.
Okay,
Yes. Like the vacuum. Was that a word, Bissell? I don't know.
Bissell? It's Yiddish for just a little.
Oh, okay. Bissell. Yeah. And, yeah, so he is the stewardship director for the Vermont Housing Conservation Board. And they also were at the point where they wanted us to return to the original terms of the easement on Bombardier.
Very good. to know.
Yeah.
Did, I guess for the two of you, did Pete share any more information about that shoulder, other than it would take 2 to 3 days and take a lot of gravel?
Yeah, he'd have to, the only thing he said he's concerned about is that it's one thing about putting it there, but he has to put it much further. So when somebody comes out of their car, they don't step down. So he's thinking, how far that would have to be. But that's all he said.
He certainly said, he said that this would be this isn't a. Just throw a scoop of gravel over there type project, that this is a select board approval, it's a budgetary item. It would have to, he'd have to sign a dollar figure to it before he did it.
But that it was physically possible.
Yes.
I think so. There's always a concern. And I think Jim is kind of comforting us a little bit on this. There's always a concern that we put a bunch of money into parking there to take the place of what's going on the land trust.
Hmm.
And then the land trust puts parking in, and now we've got
Hmm.
too much parking. But I think we're fairly comfortable
Yeah.
saying that's not gonna happen.
I would see that happening.
Okay, so one could wait until see how this season goes and
I don't think Pete had any opposition to it.
yeah,
I think it was exactly as you say, John. I think it's something that needs some planning, needs some budgeting, needs some time to get ready for next year.
Yeah.
Or maybe this fall.
Yeah, it was not, it was very off the record. Pete was in a bucket loader and I was in a traffic jam, and we had a window to window discussion. And he said, let's see how it works, but he's neutral. He'll do whatever those.
He's a gem.
He really is.
and I'm the person that has been saying, oh, it's really steep. Maybe other people think it's okay. Yeah.
Yeah,
Pete is a gem.
Pete's a gem.
Yeah.
I guess, drop off areas. So Umiak will be one of those drop off people.
Interestingly, I have heard nothing from Umiak since I informed them of our plans. We made it clear they had, made an offer to post a steward there if we would essentially allow them to park a trailer there with their gear. We don't really want a trailer parked there with their gear, so we said, thanks, we're going this other direction. And but we're clear that they would have as much right to use it for drop off as anyone else. It's really a question of whether that means a trailer or what that means for them.
Speaking of stewards, is there any possibility, I understand what you're saying is RLT doesn't want to be in the parking business, but enforcement, there's two kinds of enforcement. We can put it all on RLT, or would the RLT consider putting a volunteer there? I mean, we can predict the days based on weather and weekend to sort of guide people. There's one thing to put a sign and say park elsewhere, but people behavior will be bad. I think having someone, if it's possible, on just peak days to sort of with no particular enforcement other than suggesting. I know that's a lot to ask.
Yeah.
But it's gonna
I don't know if honestly about the Richmond Land Trust membership or board capacity. I don't know about that. There is the Vermont River Conservancy is planning on having a steward who will be providing intermittent monitoring of the Huntington Gorge, the Bolton potholes, and some other properties. And they have been doing this in recent years.
Well, who was that organization?
Vermont River Conservancy.
Do they get compensated for it, or they're just nice?
They don't get compensated by the Richmond Land Trust. So where they get their funding for that, I don't know.
Is that, you think it's worth that could go a long way to helping, mitigate stuff if they would be willing to do that at a couple of key places. Is that worth reaching out to them? Do you have a contact?
I don't, they have a relatively new director. And so I don't know the new director, but I can get that contact
Do you
information.
mind?
I don't,
Are they monitoring or are they engaging with the people that are there? The car counting or they?
No, they're, well, in the past, it's been some of both. They're not, in the past, it has been, a college student on a summer job. So they're not really doing enforcement. They're doing engagement, but not enforcement.
Yeah.
Um,
Education.
yeah, what they envisioned for this year, I can't say, but that's been the pattern of the past.
Diane brought up a good point. Would it be possible for you to talk to them, since it's RLT property? Could you ask?
Yeah, we
if
can talk to them
the-
about
if
that.
The River Conservancy would be interested in at least doing, spot management during the changeover.
Yes,
I mean,
think
because
it's, I think I like to call it spot education.
yeah, that's what.
I think, yeah, and I think that's what they're out to do is, also, yeah. Trying to think of however to tell people.
I'm just thinking that, to be able to understand what we're trying to do, I think people will be a lot better behaved if there's a human there. And I think it's in the interest of the river.
It certainly wouldn't be a horrible idea for, once they have their summer volunteer, for us to spend some time with that person and just learn what they're learning. Kind of,
Mhm.
Where were they gonna be? They were gonna be at potholes.
I know they're gonna be at the,
You said gorge? or-
Huntington Gorge, yeah, at the gorge. And I don't know if that's, I just don't recall if it's one or two locations on the gorge, I mean, the gorge in triple buckets,
Mhm.
upper and lower gorge. I believe the Bolton potholes and others. So I think there's one person who splits their time across those places. Last year, I think it was last year, might have been Riley Butler, the
A
Butler.
couple of years ago. I
Yeah,
think
a
it
couple
was.
years ago.
Yeah.
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 So, and again, I don't know. I was asking, I don't know if it's a college student again or what it is, or whether it's a member of their staff.
So we're pulling them away from other areas, but maybe they have a little time to share. Yeah.
It might be split. So could you ask them specifically, well, would you all agree that that's worth asking them for Bombardier in particular?
It'd be nice to, I mean, like, I think they sort of get an idea of what's happening, what people are asking in certain places.
I think we
That
learn
might
a
be a
lot.
good,
Yeah.
yeah.
We learn a lot, even if.
I think it's also that we don't close down asking UMIAC to support providing monitoring, which is what they originally had offered. I will probably reach out to them saying, hey, guys, haven't heard anything, but they're part of the puzzle.
Um. Any questions you have for us, Jim, about any of the?
So see, my follow-ups were did I have another follow-up before I?
There were a couple things, that wasn't an official follow-up, you were gonna. I think it would be good to set a date by which the,
Dates for parking.
dates for parking.
Yeah.
We were interested in hearing about the layout of the parking and ADA stuff, but.
Mhm.
just for
well, maybe you could drop a seed with the contractor on the dam about
That's the other,
fill
yeah,
over.
That's it.
yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
I don't know if I have anything else. I mean, I think on Bexhill and Bombardier, we also did talk about the idea of widening it there, and like, that's a good idea.
Mhm.
It's part of the town right away, probably, so they can do whatever they want, but as the adjacent landowner, we'd rather not have anybody going over the edge there, so seems like that would be for safety. A good idea, and prepared to have that impinge on what we already have, for what it's worth.
You're talking about what exists there, or if Pete was to fill it?
He was to fill it.
Well, definitely, you'll be in the loop for that.
Yeah.
Let you know.
But I'm trying to think if there's anything.
And you were gonna talk to the Vermont River Conservancy.
Yeah,
people about
Got that. No, I think, there's nothing, it's just a, comment, like everything in town, it takes time, people, money. And, so, I think we'll get all the parking open this year, but how far we'll advance on the longer plans, we'll have to see.
I thought of something. We discussed, I think, I don't know if you were already in here, we were discussing doing a press release with the help of the select board and Josh about the changes in parking, the ordinances along East Cochran Road and Dugway. And that will, I mean, you should probably have your eyes on that, just to make sure that it's reflecting exactly what's going on.
No, I think that'd be great. And to the
That's a
point,
good
which
idea.
is the audience is not necessarily people who are here. We agree, it's obviously it's going to be a change for people who've gotten used to using those parking areas.
Yeah.
So anything we can do to get the word out would be
Make
good.
sure you're circled in. I'll make sure you're copied
Yeah.
on that email and so that.
If we want, one or more of us can listen in to the select board meeting. And Jim, is that next Monday?
Yeah, I think I'm on
Yes.
Monday.
Another thing, I think you were in the room by that time, but we discussed an idea, just a very simple idea of doing like an occasional, like every other select board, select a stand up. Were you here for that? Where the different committees would do like a 90-second report.
Mhm.
And when we were brainstorming on that with Lisa, socially, even though RLT isn't committee.
Right.
It probably, if that happened, RLT might want to be part of it. I don't know how people feel about it. But I think since you have so many threads in parking.
Yeah.
Trails.
Yeah, I mean, not bringing this to me, there are a lot of other threads.
Mhm.
The trails need attention, there's erosion elsewhere. Not clear if it's RLT or the town, and so we're thinking about the recreational resource more broadly, there's other areas. Right.
That's a great thought.
Oh.
Yes.
I think it could be a matter just a select board asking,
Yeah.
adding you
Another,
to the list,
Right.
it's their purview that you show up, whether you're a committee or not.
you're gonna have to run because we're gonna keep coming up with stuff, but I think last time we all discussed, what's the longer term outlook on this? And we made the analogy that, there's a town plan and that there's zoning, ordinances about where you can put houses and wells and things like that. And that really what has to happen longer term is that the town has to decide how it wants to use its recreational resources and how much they want it to grow and how much they want to restrict,
Mm.
to preserve it.
Yeah.
And I don't know how that process would work, but the town plan is kind of moot on that point. It
Yeah.
doesn't really say much.
Right.
And so one of the things we want to advocate longer term is to have a recreational plan. What does Richmond look like in 5-10 years in terms of recreation?
Mhm.
Because certainly we have to be part of that.
Yeah.
I know that sounds pie in the sky, but I think that's when you get the right conversations up. Right now, we're all in a completely reactive mode. But anyway,
I thought, may I just comment on Chuck made a really good point, we're a town of 4,100 people, except for some of these weekends,
Yeah.
where we get an extra 2,000.
Mhm.
And how do we work that? That was really like. Oh.
Yeah.
It's important.
The only other thing that occurs to me is that it's good to keep the eye on the select board agendas of other towns like Bolton. Because some of what's happening in Richmond is now spilling to Bolton, like UNIAC looking for solutions and other things like that. And it really, boy, talk about a regional plan, or mini regional plan. What a great thing that would be. So,
Bolton's gonna be tough because when we always get the perception that people that come here spend money here. I want to see the study, but anyways,
Right.
Bolton. You got one store, it's not like the residents are gaining anything from the visitors other than a feeling of goodwill and sharing and all that we all want to do. That would be a tough one.
They've already put their ropes up 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
Bolton has. If you've gone down like the Duxbury Road,
mm,
I was telling Pete about it. It's a really nice design. It's almost like those snow fence lines and then just a very small roping around. I noticed it at the Long Trail Bridge.
Okay.
Oh, it was up quickly and nicely
Mhm.
laid out and just like can't park here
Mhm. Yeah. Take a look.
with no signage. I thought that's, well, there's the big signs, but it was really, yeah.
Okay.
It moved quickly.
I think we're good.
We have any more for Jim?
Can't think of anything. Yeah,
Okay.
we have a couple of spots open on PAC.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll let the rest of our board know.
If you let anybody, if you know anybody who would like to, we keep trying to spread the word,
Mm,
anyone who wants to talk parking.
yeah, you guys have accomplished so much. Yeah. It's great. It'd be great to keep it going.
There's concern that, that if we don't get enough people on here,
Mhm.
that this might either be folded into another committee.
Mm,
And I don't know of committees that are bored right now and looking for more work.
Right.
So probably
Yeah.
that's not a good plan. So,
Right.
Well, thank you for
Thank
coming.
you
Sure.
so
No,
much,
thanks.
Jen.
I'm happy anytime.
Jim, always a pleasure.
Yeah.
Everybody.
Thank you very much. Thanks for all you guys do.
Yeah.
Oh, question, Lisa?
Oh, I'm sorry, Lisa.
Okay, there. Hi, Jim, while you were still there, I wanted to just bring up, somebody mentioned, I think it was John mentioned the comprehensive plan. I think in 3 years, it's due to be reviewed and reissued. So not too far into the future, as particularly if we're talking about a little bit more of a regional cooperation with Huntington and so forth, which I think is a great idea, and it's the only way to go into the future. That adds some dimension to a comprehensive plan the next time it comes out. I mean, need to be a lot of thinking and some putting down of facts on paper to get to that point. But there's an opportunity there that we didn't really recognize. I think was it town plan came out in what, 2018? So 5 years ago. I don't think people quite recognize the larger opportunity that we're looking at now. So anyway,
Good. No, absolutely.
something to think about it.
Love to participate. But
Good.
I think we're not a political organization. We try.
Right, thank goodness.
But to participate for the resources that we represent makes total sense.
Right, perfect. Good, thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, Jim.
Thank you.
All right, so we skipped over review meeting with VTrans at Checkered House Bridge parking area. Is that next on the agenda?
Yeah, we can do that. That's fine. Kevin, I met with the VTrans people down there. Kevin put out a pretty good review of the meeting. Basically, the things what VTrans is looking for is there's one area that they call the swale, which is kind of the dip part there that everything drains to. We did add some grade stakes there to indicate where a drain was that a skinny wheel bike could get into trouble. So we took care of that. And as far as how the rest of the parking area is configured, it's kind of on us how we want to do that. They'd like for the cars to be 6 feet from the guardrail. That tends to be the distance that a car will travel after it hits a guardrail above. And protect that swale. So there was some discussion about how we would re-rope that area. And another question that we had that was quite a gray area was, when do we open the parking area and when do we close the parking area? You know, right now, I think we're looking at, I think the wording for opening it is mid-May. And there is no word for closing it. I think one of the things Kevin was gonna look into was he was gonna find out when the mountain bike trail network was open. Any thoughts on that, John?
I don't know. when
No,
it's
I don't
open.
either. I want to say he was thinking May 15th. And
Yeah.
that would make sense that we would try to be open by then. And then we kind of tossed around November 1st as being a closing date for it. Late autumn cycling would be okay and all that stuff, but we wouldn't get into an issue where we had to most likely worry about plowing and stuck cars and those things.
May 15th to November 1st.
Yeah.
Is that, and what do we need to do to make that official? Is it up to them or up to us?
No, I think we would just have to come to a conclusion. I don't think this is a select board type issue. This is a state issue. We would just tell them that's what we wanted to have on there. like I said, at this point, their records just show this vague mid-May thing.
So are we all okay with those dates? Should we say?
We should run it by Kevin. I think he was comfortable. I had originally said November 15th, the second week of November.
No? Yeah.
And he thought maybe reel that back a little bit. And I thought, okay, I had no problem with that. But I wasn't. So I think that's good. As far as reconfiguring anything in there, how we want to do that. It seems like it's reasonable now. We don't really have a great 6-foot barrier
Mm.
in there, like they were suggesting we have, where that would be another set of ropes
So the
or.
guardrails, the ones that are on the Johnny Brook, wait, not the Johnny Brook doesn't have guardrails.
No, right, that's
It's
not on
it's the,
Route 2 or whatever it is, Route 164.
no, it's the, what's the one that goes up?
Kenny?
Kenyon. Does Kenyon Road have guardrails?
No,
So where are the
they're
guardrails?
talking the guardrails that lead to the bridge.
Oh, that's up there.
Their concern was that
Somebody's can
the
go.
combination of the 6 feet and the car is kind of sitting a little bit below the guardrail, that they really wanted to give you a little bit of space there. In all fairness,
Okay,
the steepness of that kind of governs that to my way of thinking. You know, we could put another rope in there if we wanted to. But I think at some point we end up with a little bit of a maze of
Mhm.
ropes in there.
So what's the, what would be what do we do with that?
What's happening next?
Yeah, what happens with that?
I guess one of the things we discussed was, somebody mows a certain part of that,
Pete does.
and we thought about kind of not mowing that section that goes closer to the guardrail, to at least indicate that something didn't have to,
So you'll discuss that with Pete?
well, that's on my Pete list.
Yes, yeah,
He's gonna love me.
yeah.
He
So,
does like it.
I think this all sounds great. Sound that the 15th is coming up, so it needs to be like the work day or whatever to get the ropes. I do know Pete and his crew does it, so Pete would have to be there, and then we could talk about the mowing also, and then we can just open it up and for the be obvious. The question and oh, the I think November 1st is good. I'm just trying to think of, just making sure stakes can be moved and not frozen in place. And usually November 1st is still pretty good, right? We're putting a stake in the ground.
Halloween essentially.
Yeah,
That's a good point, yeah.
yeah. So I think, yeah. And so going, that I like all those dates. Sounds great.
So we're using November 1st as a stake in the ground? Is that?
I think, yeah, no, I think that's a good visual.
Yep.
Whether it's October, whether it's Halloween or first, or whatever, I think that's a good memorable point, and I think it makes sense climate wise.
Yeah, it's actually nice to have it there. If anyone wants to trick or treat down the road, I guess.
I don't know when the mountain bike trails close. Do they actually have a closing date?
I have no idea.
And who would know that?
Willie.
Willie Lee from the Trails Committee would know.
Nobody minds, I will reach out and ask that question. Maybe we can just simplify everything by coinciding with their dates.
All right, and is it the Chamberlain Hill? Do I have that right? Is the is on private land, and so
Hmm.
it might be up, and someone here may know his name, but their name, but
Kevin does. Kevin's
Oh.
communicates with him.
oh, okay. They could have their own dates that they change from time to time, but
Yeah, maybe we should just ask Kevin.
yes.
Yeah. Great idea. Chuck, do you want to confer with Kevin or?
I can check with Kevin.
Great, thanks.
What were we just talking about?
Trails.
Willie. If you're talking to Willie, can I just go off topic for a
Yeah,
second?
you may not be talking Willie, but yeah.
If you do talk, are you gonna talk to Willie?
We'll start with Kevin.
Okay, well, if you do talk to Willie, one of the things that we talked about is, remember when we walked over Rockers to
Yes.
discuss possible? Given that we want that, is it time to revisit the possible? Since we got a little bit of a clean bill of health for the water, wetland stuff, should we be looking at a more direct path to the river again? And would that be Willie? Is that okay? Or should we reach out?
What's your thought, John?
It got complicated with John Cart wanting to move the trail away from the river, and that I just backed off at
Me
that
too,
point,
yeah.
so I don't know the answer.
Is it okay if I'll reach out, would it be more John Cart? Yeah,
Well,
I think Willie's
No.
a trail guy.
how about I reach out to Willie just to?
yeah, I was gonna say, maybe that's a question to the Trails Committee,
Are
He's
you okay
the
with it?
Chair of the.
have them put that in
Just
their
to see where
agenda.
that was, I mean, we're not gonna wait for that movement.
Can, since you're gonna be talking to him, would you, see if they are going to, they could mark the trail with maybe a little bit more of a, here's the trail, here's the path, maybe with a map on it? Just when, at Overrock.
Willie, yeah, and
Just
Willie.
at Overrock, so when you get out of the park and they go, okay, river access, which way is the river, kind of, oh, here's the trail marker. And this is, underneath it, a picture of the map. Would be awesome. And I know that they like things to be on your phone, but I think when people are walking, might be nice to have a trail map, a directional map, river trail. Thank you, John.
Yeah, I guess the issues were, or we are off topic.
But we are on time.
Okay, yeah, the wetland on the potential new route, and then John wanting to reroute the whole trail in that area, so it got complicated, and then the parking lot came up. Are we ready to move on to the next agenda item?
You good?
I'm good.
Review of meeting with Pete and new signs, is that it?
Where's that on there? Okay, that's good. Wow, we're like on time.
Yes.
Okay,
We are right on.
well, Chuck's gonna leave PAC and go become a professional sign maker because he made amazing signs. And I was very impressed. Pete was very thankful. And, does he have them now? Is he?
I believe they're ordered. Andy Squire sent an email with some good questions that I want to make sure we address for Andy. Those aren't going to be, we constructed a Richmond parking ordinance changes in effect sign, which has a Richmond Rounders logo, and it looks pretty good. And those are going to go in places where there are changes coming into play, maybe ahead of where those changes are, so catch people's eye a little bit. And then we have signs on Dugway Road, we have a sign at the half-mile mark that says no parking next 2 miles this side of road to allow access of emergency vehicles. And then at the halfway point, we have a sign that says no parking in either direction 1 mile to allow access for emergency vehicles. And at the end, we have the same sign facing back the other way. Andy's question was that those weren't, the point of Andy, those aren't the only signs. Our what we were asked to do was to help Pete translate the ordinance into signs. And that was the goal of those signs. And my understanding is Pete will have signs along the way that say no parking this side of road, just standard signs at places that were tempting for people.
Mhm.
We also submitted signs for East Cochran Road, no parking either side of the road between here and the Huntington River Bridge.
And so Pete had already ordered those and he was out putting up that speed sign there. Thank goodness I went out there because he said, oh, I already ordered the signs down there, when they come in, I'll come up, put them up and he originally thought that it was our first conversation, which was we were thinking of on the other side of the Richmond Land Trust access point so that they would have the area around that access point would have no. So it's good things. No, Pete, it's supposed to be Duxbury Road and that little curtain or whatever they call it, skirt. I think they call it a skirt. He said, okay. So I sort of stood there and I said, so it's supposed to be about here, right? And he says, okay, got it. So, and he's only going to put it on the one side. So it's going to be, so from Winooski Bridge, where we said it was going to be 15 feet in from the edge of the Duxbury Road, wherever he can physically put it in there from there. And another good thing, all the way around the bend. So he was leaving that one parking place. So it's a good thing I talked to him. I said, no, it's all the way to the bridge. He said, oh, okay, got that. So he'll put a sign right at the bridge. So do you see what I mean? So it goes from Duxbury Road around the bend to the Huntington Bridge.
And then he's gonna have an exception sign for the Edmonds parking
Yes.
area.
We want, just to avoid any confusion, do we want to talk to Pete so we don't accidentally, because there's been a lot of stuff discussed. Do we want one of us?
No, I stood
Are
in
we
the
good?
road. Yeah.
No, I mean, for anything else, like on Dugway?
Wow, that's a good question. Well, let me finish the East Cochran
Okay.
one. So he's also gonna put, he's obviously not gonna put it on the residential side, but he is gonna put, I think he said, and no parking area at the bridge, at the pews, where the guardrail and the pews house, yard is. I think that's where he's gonna put it. First, he said he's gonna put it across the bridge. I put it across the bridge, so I think it's gonna go at the guardrail. In the pews, the end of the pews, land there. So he won't put any signage around the residential side. He says, because that's not, even though it's part of the ordinance, he says they don't normally put those signs. It's kind of, he says, it's kind of redundant. He said, it's no parking there anyways. But in discussing with him, and I really think we just need the ropes one more year around there, just from where the sign is around to the Huntington Bridge.
One thing that's gonna happen from Dugway Road is that Pete is gonna accumulate a lot of straight up no parking signs, no parking on travel portion of the road signs and all that lie in that 2-mile stretch. So whether he redeploys those or not, but it's good to keep in mind that
Oh, they could be reused.
those are sitting in the town garage somewhere, and that if we feel a place is not being respected, that maybe we could ask for one of those to be put in there without having to buy new signs.
Good thought. So they're on order, getting in and, but to answer your question, you said, should we?
Should we meet with him when he's doing that, just so that there's no
He
question?
seemed to know, like when we were talking about Dugway, he had his map out.
Yeah, he made a nice map.
He had a nice map. He
Okay.
printed out a bunch
Again.
of the 911.
Nothing but respect for Pete, but I would, if I happen to know the day that he's putting him on Dugway Road, I would make myself available to pull the hammer. Just so that we're in, cause I do think that we spent a lot of time crafting the ordinances,
Mhm.
Yeah, I'm not worried.
looking exactly at this tree and this parking area and all that, and I don't wanna stub our toe by putting a sign in a place that we didn't.
I'm worried about, not that. I think he knows what he's doing. There's just been so many discussions of different, there's been so many movement. It's no wonder people are confused, so maybe could you reach out to Pete? And ask if,
I know, that's my list, can we join him for sign day?
Find it, yeah. That, when we were discussing that, should have asked Jim, so until they make their area, right now, there's just random rope signs and stakes down there. So when Pete comes through, maybe we could pick up those random stakes that are just around the entranceway to that parked area. And I think people can still pull in to the bump out, I guess they call it bump out, where Pete put the fill. You could still put a car there straight in. I guess we'll just keep the ropes up the way the land trust has them.
We got a date as to when they thought it would be ready. Was it Memorial Day, the ADA parking?
Did not get it. Did we?
Yeah, that was a little,
They said they were being loose on that, and I suggested that the season started yesterday, so. But I think he said, okay, for
Okay.
Memorial Day.
So they'll be down working on that, I guess. They'll do their own pulling of posts and figuring it out.
Yeah, you could move those ropes around until they're ready.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, okay.
the other thing on that was that Pete did mention that he wanted to bring in some gravel for the Edmund parking area. And line that out for parking for a 4-car parking area, because right now he said it's 3.5 and a little dirty on the half, and he didn't want to create a danger zone, so that he wanted to fill that in out. In all fairness, Pete's doing sidewalks, Pete's doing curb. I'm sure today and tomorrow they're picking up green up day bags. He's swimming upstream pretty hard, but I think things will get better for him. And these aren't big sign jobs are not a big project for him.
Did he have a date? Yeah, so we don't know when it
We
would
don't
be.
know.
And he'll do that before, okay.
More discussion?
We got it right.
Until the signs come in, I think we're good.
Yeah, we're good.
We're treading water.
All right, future of the parking advisory committee, new members, restructuring of the group. We've allocated 15 minutes for this. I'll ask, is there any second thoughts about not applying for another 2-year term?
Are we on a 2-year term or a 3-year? We're on 3-year term.
Are we on 3-year term?
2020. Oh, anyways.
I don't know.
Yeah. Are you,
I'm a 2-year term. Mine expires in a year.
I believe I'm a 2-year term.
Why are we on different?
oh, maybe it is 2.
We shouldn't
Maybe
be
they
on
started
anything.
I'm
looking
not sure
at-
about us.
Maybe they started counting in 2021.
Yeah, I thought that was just Emergency
Okay.
Powers Act.
So we did have a discussion through email with Josh and saying that, can we just like hang out until we get enough? And hanging out is not really done. So he said what has worked just recently on the water committee, I think it was. I think that was it was. He says, if you want to do the hangout, one option is to sign up, say, yes, we'll do another term, whatever we were at, we'll just do the 2-year term, and then leave when there's enough people on. So that's what the water committee person did. They said, okay, we'll do it. We'll wait till we have that water person come on and a little bit of help, and then that person got off. So he says it's easier to get off early rather than try to make it for a shorter period, essentially. So John and I've decided, okay, let's go ahead and reapply for the
If you'll have
additional 2-year, just so we just felt like this felt so odd to leave when things were really active.
I think, yeah.
So maybe we just go through the season and sort of say, okay, things are quiet. You have 6 months before they get busy again. Maybe we leave at the end of summer, but if we really want to work to get.
We feel like we're doing 2 experiments on both the biggest hotspots, and then there's West White. Just, I feel, we feel uncomfortable leaving that half done. And we also feel uncomfortable leaving without a strong quorum until we can find it. The only worry I have is that if we say, okay, we're gonna sign on, we've been at this for a few years, that then maybe we stop looking for new members, but you suggesting Matt.
Yeah.
I think if we actively still look for people who, have something to bring to the thing, then we can all get to a point where we decide that we can drop off.
I think,
How do you both feel about that?
Sounds like a good plan to me.
Yeah, as long as, I mean. Okay.
yeah, so I did, as you alluded to, I did speak to Matt Buckley,
Mhm.
who's 40-year resident of Richmond and pretty well known.
Newcomer.
Pretty newcomer, pretty moderate kind of a guy, and he was at a time in his life where his practice is slowing down a little bit. He's looking to engage in something, and he was very, very. Where do I sign?
Yes.
This.
And he's a lawyer. That's good. Do you know?
He was the lawyer for the party that sold us our house.
There you go. Now he pretty much says marriage mediation, I think, but
Well, that's
Being-
perfect for this.
he and Carolyn. You mean for you two or just?
No.
I thought you were getting along well.
Well, it's all about a marriage when it comes to the
No,
town, right?
Town.
You're right, I get
A
it.
negotiator.
I totally get But I think he and
Fantastic.
Carolyn are both delightful people.
Yeah.
And
And their dog.
I would love to have him formally apply for it. and
Nice.
Get on board with us.
Awesome. So Kevin's not here to speak. I haven't heard differently from Kevin, so just felt like 3 out of 5 was a lot to leave. So. Right, so we really need to keep working to get anyone else we can on here. Well, you might find some people.
Oh, there's.
You got somebody?
Lisa.
Yeah.
No,
I've got you written down. Thank you.
I raised my hand at the wrong time. I just had a question. I was thinking, I don't know who takes care of terms, but I'm looking at the chart here and maybe another 2-year term should be staggered. Another term should be staggered for 2 years. Because right now we've got 3 expiring all at one time, as you know, and then we've got 2 expiring next year. So, that's the whole committee. Am I still on?
Yes.
Yeah, you're good. Yeah, no, we're pondering.
Oh, okay, my screen went dark. I don't know what happened, so. But maybe we should make them like, a 1, 2, and 3. No, not 1 doesn't help, but 2 2-year terms, but make the 2-year terms start not in the same year. So they would tend to overlap a little bit more. We've got a big chunk, of people that are expiring right now. So just, I'll ask Duncan might know how we set those. I'll find out who sets those and whether we can just alter them at will.
My recollection is when it was started, 3 of the terms they were all 2-year terms, but no, that my term was for 1 year and then I reapplied. Yeah.
Okay.
And I did a 2-year. We
Mhm.
put John and I on the same general timeline as far as what you.
Right.
would be done.
Yeah. Assuming this chart is right, there's 2, there's 3 3-year terms and 2 2-year terms.
And Lou had a 1-year term probably, and then his expired.
Oh, yeah, yeah, okay. Yeah, that is on the chart. This is the current chart, but it doesn't give me any history. Okay.
All right, well.
Anything we can do to terms to maybe not increase them, but to just stagger them better to, have a whole board walk off.
So they were somewhat staggered. I don't know if there's room for
Yeah.
A
improvement.
little bit, yeah, but they're staggered by 2 years, 1 year.
So as long as y'all know that we're gonna work hard to find other people on and then
Yes.
eventually just
do we have
Mhm.
any thoughts on how we would either go about finding new people or any other
Well,
new people you're thinking
I'm
about?
waiting for all those people who can't park somewhere and then we can say, hey. would
you
you
don't
like
like-
to get out into the-"
Join.
The ultimatum, very nice, good technique.
By the way.
I was
That's a
thinking-
pretty big lure.
Last meeting, you said you already talked to 15 people. I went, uh-oh.
Well, I talked to all the neighbors.
I've been asking people.
Yeah.
We asked Lisa. She seems like she's busy or something.
One thing I thought about was I would go back through the people who've been attending our meetings. Particularly, I mean, we had a good group in Dugway Road and people responded to the survey and those kind of things and see what their worlds were like.
I think it's also important to ask, if there's other people, some of the other areas that we're looking at, like, could we get one of the Lowe's? Could we get somebody down Johnny Brook? What other places?
Oh, even
It'd be
Stage,
kind-
I mean,
yeah.
Stage Road in town,
Yeah,
Brown's Trace, I mean, everybody parks, let's park somewhere, yeah.
Yeah, no, I think, be candid here, I joined because of Dugway Road, obviously, and
It's
you
here.
spread your effort evenly everywhere else, but I feel like each
Mhm.
problem spot needs a voice. And whether we add on Johnny Brook
yeah.
or
I
at the
think-
Lowe's would be a fine idea, right?
Mhm. Great idea.
Somebody know them well enough to.
I was talking to Bob today and it crossed my mind while I was chatting with him, but not long enough for me to pull the trigger. Because I was more thinking, to be honest with you, I was almost thinking about John. And then I was almost thinking about Tegan.
That'd be
That'd be
awesome.
great. I mean, how many,
I'm not sure what his time management is like. But
That's a great idea.
it could be based on location, could be based on skills, like with Matt, it's nice.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, we had both Lou and then Kevin who had that VTrans experience, because Lou had didn't work for VTrans, but he worked for the state and he knew a lot of that stuff. There's a lot of VTrans stuff that is just, I don't understand. I mean,
Back-
he
Kevin,
was spewing out the
Kevin was-
or triple L, double I overview.
so.
Traffic calming.
Yeah.
What about getting some from the land trust? Or
I
crossover?
think it'd be a conflict of interest.
Well, Luke sort of walked that line.
Yeah, he
You're right.
wore
though.
different
You're probably
hats.
right. You're
He wore
probably right.
different hats.
I'm not writing any of these names down.
But I
No,
think,
this is brainstorm.
yeah,
I mean, yeah.
VTrans.
I won't
It's
put
the
anybody
select
else.
board's
I
decision.
mean, we chat with Expire, we kind of jokingly said, hey, Andy, you should come on board, and I thought. No, that probably would also
Also
be
conflict.
another conflict of interest, and we wouldn't have the police chief on the board, we probably shouldn't have any law enforcement on the board. We don't respect them, but they're people
Yeah,
who
there's,
help us,
Mhm.
aren't part of us.
they're part of it. Yeah.
Same with the land trust, same with Pete,
Yeah, same reason you wouldn't put Pete on the board.
But they may know people
They may.
in their work, in their workings of the town that,
Maybe somebody near the Richmond Town Board.
this is how,
I mean, as simple as, do we put? Do we put an editorial or something in the Times Inc? Or should the select board put something in the Times Inc saying, this is what we're projecting for openings this year? Here's your chance.
Well, it was done in Front Porch Forum.
Okay.
but we weren't even on there. Did you read that? Like,
Oh, I didn't notice that.
yeah, I read,
Are we
through it, I
on the
go,
list?
Mark wasn't even on there.
Oh, okay.
But the other ones were open, yeah.
Oh, okay.
There's the town's asking for, there's a lot of openings for volunteers at this moment.
That seems like an oversight.
Yeah, maybe they didn't, yeah, I don't know.
I'm not a big Front Porch Forum guy, but
No, neither am I. I feel
I
like,
kind of glaze over sometimes. But and looking at all media outlets to try to reach out to people.
I wish,
Oh, I gotta,
what's that?
instead of like issuing a warning, we could get Allison to subpoena someone.
He
to be
doesn't-
on the
he doesn't
board.
know what
Yeah,
it
we
is.
should have the-
He hasn't heard.
What?
Allison isn't.
Yeah, better hurry.
Yeah,
Where'd you go?
we don't know anything.
St. Albans.
Oh, is that right?
Albans.
Yeah, she's taking a job in St. Albans. I think she leaves, like the 18th or something from here, not very long.
She's a very good person. She
Yeah.
has a lot of connections up toward Jay and Newport and up that way, so St. Albans would almost make sense for her. And I think she dreamed of being a K-9 officer.
Mhm.
Oh,
Those having a small department like Richmond, you're not gonna have a K-9, so you're not gonna
no,
have the
for sure, they're expensive. Oh,
officer. So good for
Yeah.
her. Wish her luck.
That's a great move for her.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Horrible news for us.
yeah, we're gonna
Yeah.
miss her.
well, I hope she winds up doing better.
Yeah.
More thoughts on recruiting members? You bought us some time.
Yeah, it would be
Thank you.
nice if we sort of kept that pulse in all of our meetings, maybe 5 minutes. We don't talk it to death, but if we just
Okay.
keep looking.
But somebody here actively front porch forum,
Yeah.
you wanna put something on there?
Oh, no.
I don't.
That's what I was gonna say before you mentioned Allison, is that I wish I didn't feel this way. But it's such a touchstone for so many possible negative I have,
Absolutely.
but I wish so maybe we should look for another venue I mean, we have access to we could send everybody a letter and mail it to them.
Yeah, that's why I say Times Inc. or something like that. It's something that is static. You're not creating a conversation, you're just putting out there and saying, whether it's editorial or we talk to Heidi and say,
I do think, well, that effective, it'll also be more effective if we can think of,
Yeah.
what do they call it? Spear fishing? Instead of fishing, where we can think about what points of view, what geography, what skills.
as opposed to net casting. I get you.
Yeah,
I get it.
Mhm.
I get it.
That's what it's called in the hack.
Targeted fishing. I get it.
Alright.
So it sounds like we're just
We're
gonna
okay.
word of mouth and brainstorm a little bit
Yeah.
longer and we caught our breath a little bit, but in fairness to you folks, we need to keep how do you want to proceed with Matt? Should we suggest that Matt get a hold of Josh and I know I had to write a letter to the select board and then I had to sit in front of the select board and then I had to sign contract at the end that I'd stay for 3 years or whatever. That was kind of odd that they would tell you to renege on that. Okay,
That's easier done than.
I get it.
reduce-
I
yeah.
get it.
Yeah.
So probably should check with Kevin, but
Yeah.
I will bump an email out to everyone and explain the Matt Buckley situation, and if everybody gives a thumbs up,
I say, yeah,
yeah.
I don't think
I'll
we
let
need-
Kevin have a voice.
And he's entitled to just send his application into Josh without asking us.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
That's a good point.
very good. Yeah. Yeah, I'd say go for it, Matt. That's a great idea.
Okay.
And Josh did say in that email to John and I that he did feel that, yes, it could be folded under something else, but he likes the workings. He thinks it works well where it is, parking advisory committee. So I just wanted to pass that on.
I'm fairly strongly don't want to become part of another committee. I think committees are big enough already. I think multiple committees create a certain amount of checks and balances for each other's controlling of what
Mhm.
happens in Richmond. I don't think we want to give any committee too much power, nor do we want to give any committee too much work.
Good point. That's a really good point. Okay,
Are we ready to move on to the next agenda item?
sure.
Approval of past minutes, would that be the April 24th meeting?
Right.
Mhm.
Or are we,
Well, 24th.
I'm looking at the
Thank
calendar
you so
now.
much. Very good.
I should have right here.
Yep, you're right. April 24th. Yes. So, how do we start that?
Someone says I move to approve the,
You want to say that?
I move to approve the minutes from the April 24th meeting.
I second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
I,
Aye. Passing.
The crowd goes one.
So just so, as we share these duties, so this. Let me just check that time, it was 7:46. Pardon me, the agenda with the correct numbers gets sent to Ruth Miller by tomorrow morning, so I will do that.
you do that every week, every time we meet?
Yeah.
Oh, very good. I had no idea. Thank you.
So, then she takes this video and she puts the agenda at the front of the video. So that if somebody wants to know, oh, if they approve the minute meeting, then they can scroll right to
7:29
and then pop that over. And then John is both recording and typing these minutes out, and will pass them to me. I'll collect them and then I will send this within 5 days. Generally. The rules are that you have to send them to Josh, and I always copy Duncan because he's his PA, or he works with Josh. I don't know what his role is and title is. And so in that email, I would say, here are the minutes for tonight's meeting, and the minutes for April 24th have been approved. So then they take those minutes from wherever the pending is and they move it over into the approved, wherever that list is. So it's just an act that they do to say that they've been approved. Everybody's looked at them. So I'm just trying to get, as summer comes and.
No, I think we all need to kind of understand what each other is doing.
Yeah.
So when people do finally get to move on, that we're not
Yeah,
caught by surprise.
it's the kind of, I like how we sort of, rotate the stuff around, which is great. So our next meeting is in 2 weeks and we're going to be here. And I believe we can listen to the select board meeting, but until, unless if Josh says that Pete needs the approval from the select board to put the ropes up again. If he needs that, then I'll ask to be put on Monday for that approval. Does that make sense?
I would probably plan on a
And-
select board meeting Monday anyways, so
Yeah.
let me know if there's
Yeah.
things that need to be.
Okay, and also
Not
I will
on
ask
the
Josh.
agenda, Just.
Yeah, if any of those, the press release or the putting the ropes up around them need to go on the agenda, I'll let you know. That's, close that up.
So how would so you're gonna. Okay. How, you're gonna feed back to us?
Yes.
Okay.
So that's one of my beat questions.
Yes, so all of that is okay because we're not working out an issue or a problem. This is all the mechanics of, if for example, we wanted to do the press release, we would just swap that around and then.
Press release, what was the other issue? Press release.
The press release and ropes on the bombardment metal. Those are the two questions I'll be asking. On Wednesday, not tomorrow.
Lisa, is your email on the town website?
It's the one that you don't answer.
Beach.
Yeah.
It's-
I've got 7 email addresses. That's why I don't answer.
I think you can combine them. I think you can. John, you know how to do that.
What's it?
Forward them. You can forward them.
Yeah, I'm getting set up. Duncan helped a lot on getting me integrated with the town's server and all that stuff. I do get emails on one of my computers. I have 2 computers. As long as I grab the right one, I can bring it to a meeting. But it's lisa.miller@richmond.org.
Go. .gov.
No, .org for me.
I don't have one.
I'm not an employee, so, yeah, I get the dark.
Give it a repeat is.
Oh, I'm sure Pete is, yeah, like, Josh, Duncan, and those people are the .go.
I suppose it's you. Okay.
But you can look online too. It's on, yeah.
Mhm.
She doesn't answer that one.
I have a private email. I mean, some people have been using that if they don't, because all the emails that are collected on the town server are kind of public record. They're supposed to
Yeah, I
be.
don't want to go to the private one.
That's a good thing. Unless somebody just wants to email me a question or something, in which case the beechcraft5@gmail.com works really well.
Seems like we've got. Where are we on the agenda?
Are we in the agenda for next meeting? Is
Yeah.
that where we're on now?
Yes.
And I'll say that, I didn't respond quickly to your proposed agenda. And that delayed things a little bit with Duncan, and the front porch forum didn't come out today. So I'll try to be prompt in reading the proposed agenda so we can give the final version right to
Yeah, that's fine. I think
Duncan.
Kevin might be back next week to do the next agenda.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Anyway.
so it comes, this generally goes to Duncan the Thursday before the Monday of our meeting. And I know that we have different
Yeah.
thoughts on this, but I really think we could keep a more generic agenda. So it's not so like,
That's a good point.
like what we did before, remember, John,
Yeah.
early on, we did like, we listed each of them, all the spots that we were doing, that
Yeah.
was, and then, sometimes we would go like, oh, there's nothing going on, around church, okay, nothing on that one, we just did sort of updates.
If we have something of real urgency, we couldn't change it up, but that would save a bit of hassle.
It seemed like this time around we had, when I was crafting the agenda, I felt like we had. A fair amount to talk about. John had a lot of interaction with the land trust. We had,
And we got
we
through
had
it.
meetings with Pete. And I felt like things had to have. We didn't have room in here for a lot of meandering conversation
Yes,
that we had to hit a lot of bases. But I totally agree that we can go back and say. Conversations on Bombardier Mountain, conversations on RLT. Conversations on Dugway Road and whatever, and let it flow a little better.
I think that also from, if somebody wanted to pop on and see what was happening on Gillette Pond, they would kind of know
Yeah.
when we were gonna hit Gillette Pond, for example.
Well, I think if we have, I guess I probably work out. I think if we have less subject matters with wider conversations. Yet you're still doing the timeline and sending that to Ruth. That browsing the meeting wouldn't be any more difficult,
Correct.
because even though you had a half an hour for Gillette's Pond. 15 minutes into it, we talked about Girl Scout camp, or whatever.
The only thing I would say, not to be contrarian, but thinking about the agenda before we go in, rather than looking at the generic agenda and saying, what do we want to talk about? I
Yes.
think we actually,
That's really a good
I think
point.
we have,
Yeah.
I think the discussion that goes back and forth, even if we don't publish it, is worth it.
I actually like the interchange that was
I
happening.
thought so.
Yeah.
I
and
thought
I-
you
it
were
wa-
bringing up really timely stuff.
Yeah, I thought that was like, oh, yeah.
But we should start at the Monday.
Yeah.
Okay, okay.
Like I say, maybe we
Yeah.
have the private conversation of what we want to talk about, and then.
Or
boilerplate.
somebody just puts out here's the generic, we need to change that up. That's a good idea. We just sort of come up with, this is. Cause
Well,
then
maybe we
it's
should-
easier on copy paste for the Zoom stuff, it just helps, cause, yeah.
Maybe the first question is gonna be, who do we want to hear from? Who would be a guest? We talked about having Willie come in and be a guest, and I didn't see that we had time this week to do it. And kind of glad we did.
Yeah, what do you guys think about the next meeting, asking Willie Lee to come and just sort of because so much of our parking involves activities for trails. I thought, maybe we should just, we had him when we first began, remember?
Yeah, yeah.
Remember he came in a couple years ago. Might be nice just to sort of, hey, can you come? What do you think?
I'm fine with inviting him.
Yeah, he's up to Chris too, and I'm okay with it.
As long as he knows that we don't have specific questions planned, I guess.
Guess the only question I had, John, was about the overrocker. Maybe we don't need to have him come.
Is that something that we can answer in an email as opposed to answer with a
Perhaps.
person.
Perhaps. John, when you email him about that overrocker question, why don't you ask him, is there anything else going on in trails that, maybe we should get together and talk about, or any, because we haven't attended their meetings, they haven't attended ours. We all could look them up and see what they're doing. Yeah, just say, is it, just to, I don't know, just to sort of keep our connection too, right? Just a thought,
I think probably.
I'll bring it up with.
bring it up.
For me, the elephant in the room is the Richmond Police Department right now. So everything we've crafted over the past year as far as ordinances and things like that have to have some enforcement for them to be worth anything.
So are we down to one person?
Two. We have Kevin Wilson, who's still on deployment until September, but otherwise, yeah, just been
And
Time to bring
effectively
in.
one. Yeah.
how is the search for a new chief going? Or are we still
Suspended.
pursuing the Heinsberg thing?
That's a really good question, Chuck. That's the main thing we're going to talk about tomorrow night in executive session. The contract, I mean, I'll just air this out, but the contract, in my opinion, is working really well with Heinsberg. It's not the same as having a police chief here, and it's not the same as having a staff that just needs to be augmented here. We need the whole thing, really. So that's a little harder. There's some factions that are ready to actually just hit the button on combining the police forces. Not a regional police force exactly, but essentially having a joint chief and a force that would follow wherever they needed to go within Heinsberg and Richmond. There's a lot of resistance to that too, though. So it's just, I don't know how it's going to go. I'm not the best person to understand some of the long-term positions of, having our own police force versus a regional one. It's a lot of emotion both ways. So I'll just say it and, leave it at that. But for the short term, the contract with Heinsberg for coverage, speed patrols, calls, works pretty well. They're willing to do it. We certainly have the money to do it. So we've been budgeting for 6 police officers and, not paying 6. So short term, year or so, we've got policing. But I wouldn't count on the Heinsberg force to do anything that's local, that takes local knowledge. That's something we don't have without having our own police force. You don't have that local footprint, basically. So
What do we want? We want an officer from Heinsberg to work over here for us.
right.
How do we? Do we say we need somebody Saturday? Do we need somebody to do speed enforcement? How is that approach? And I'm just curious.
Yeah, I don't recall the exact language in the contract that would cover something like that. Basically, the contract covers what ifs, more like emergencies. Who will cover it? How quickly can we get here? What do we need to do to facilitate that? That's really emergencies are really the first focus of the contract. And then as needed, there's some illegality going on. Speeding on Cochran Road is, as you know, it's a big thorn in people's side. So they are, Heinsberg is enforcing that. Well, the contract's on hold for the moment until we clear up the grievance with the union, which Allison raised, and I think we've got that cleared up. So we should be resuming the contract shortly, a week or two. Where was I? Let's see. The longer term, we are searching for a chief. You probably know I wouldn't call it a debacle, but it's similar. It was some real
Honeybrook?
angst stirred up by the leading candidate's record.
Right.
Yeah, is not what you'd hope for, I think. So that's another one. The problem is we recruited 20 people. We had 20 enrollees, I guess, in the screening program. At the end of it, we wound up with one, and that's the one who has this history. So we threw a net far and wide, and we probably found about all the available candidates that were there with that 20. That's it. You know, that's the pool that we were able to muster. So I don't know how quickly this is going to happen to find a new chief. You know, Ben, I haven't talked to Ben. I don't understand his thoughts. I mean, I haven't heard his thoughts, but he's the chief, he's the interim chief, and he's actively being replaced, but he's supposed to still do a great job in the meantime, with no staff. So it's a very thin coverage that we have here, very thin force that we have. So I think, or back to your question, Chuck, we think we're going to wind up having to either hire off-duty police for patrols that we need to manage parking and other enforcement activities, or we do a little bit more of a deep contract with Heinsberg for regular services, you know, scheduled services, maybe one day here, 1 out of 3 days or something for each of their officers. I don't know. That still needs to be worked out.
Okay.
And, you know, we can do rental forces to some extent, as long as they have law enforcement credentials. And I think that came up. If things get ugly and arrests need to be made, not everybody can do that because they don't have the use of force training and other things. So they're not really a law enforcement officer without that. I think Andy Squires has gotten that training.
Yeah, he's
Yeah.
actually a police officer.
Yeah, okay. I would hate to.
He'd make a great chief. He's got the look.
Yeah, he does. Yeah, he's got the facial hair and all that. That's, you know, that's an interesting concept.
We're at 8 o'clock here.
All right, we're at 8 o'clock.
Okay. There you go.
All right, wait, what were we supposed to say
It
again?
seems like we have a lot of action points, right?
We
A lot
do.
of-
I got my list.
I got my list,
Okay,
so we've got some good homework before the next meeting and we can share via email.
Let's see if this thing can actually pull out the action.
all right, so let's close the meeting. How do we say it? I move to adjourn.
Yeah, and then someone seconds.
Hands up, young lady.
One last comment. I would say send Josh your thoughts on what kind of policing might be needed for Dugway and so forth during the summer, just so he can have that and put it in the mule and crank it in.
Perfect, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, guys.
Let's
I
take that
second the motion
Yeah, get it
to
over.
adjourn. All in favor of adjourning?
Hi.
Bye. Okay.
Right, adjourned.
Thank
you.
I click
Thank you,
on-
folks, very much.
So-